Okay, well, it's time now to take a look at the newspapers. Diptyka Laurent has been scouring through them for us. Diptyka, I guess we can start for the second day, possibly out of 36 days, with these photos that are again on the front pages of the French press, the French strike.
Not all the press, though, today, it must be said, but indeed, these pictures, we'll have to get used to them because I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing them for a lot of the front pages over the next coming weeks and months. Those strikes could last a while. That's a warning from Le Parisien newspaper here. The paper's editors condemn what they call bad vaudeville or bad theatre, saying while the government and unions are at loggerheads, the public are the ones who are being greatly affected by these strikes. The railway strike, why it could last a while, that's what Le Parisien says on the front page. You really get an idea of the chaos it's created with this mass crowd in a metro station. Now, here in Le Parisien, the cartoonist Ranson has sort of poked fun at the whole situation. This commuter on the left is asking Emmanuel Macron and Philippe Martinez, who's a major union leader in France, how long is this strike going to last? And you see the two of them there on the right squabbling about, first of all, to whom that question is addressed and really who's at fault.
So the strikes could last a long time, and indeed this could just be the first in a series, according to Libération.
Well, it's the unrest that's proving to be a major headache for commuters. And as we said, it's just begun. Libération, the left-leaning paper, warns here in the front page that it could be a sort of prototype of what's to come. Un grève peut en cacher d'autres. It's actually a play on words. One strike could hide other strikes to come because there is deep discontent seated not just in the railway unions, but there's brewing anger among students, among Air France workers, civil servants, and even trash collectors. Indeed, the unions are trying to set up a national day of general strikes later this month. According to the government, it's not going to happen. But Libé is wondering, are they together or not? How unified is this union movement? Well, for the paper, at least, they think the movement may seem disparate now, but it could end up becoming an icon for, quote, defending the sacred public sector tradition that is so cherished in France.
Okay, an interesting one to watch. Well, meanwhile, as you say, not all of the papers are dedicating their front pages to this strike. La Croix, for example, the Catholic paper, is focusing its attention on something quite different today, and it's the plight of homeless people here in France.
And possibly a story that doesn't get enough coverage, really, in France. This is a very poignant article from La Croix. They call them les morts de la rue, or the deaths of the street, in the street. The paper has painstakingly listed the age and date of death of each homeless person who died in France last year. Some are anonymous, others are listed by name. But just to give you a few figures, there were 510 people who died in the streets in France last year. 467 of them were men, so an overwhelming number of them were men. 43 were women. Shockingly, Eve, 6 people were children under the age of 5. La Croix this listing from La Croix really coincides with a special service at Paris City Hall this Wednesday to pay homage to the homeless and really focus on their plight that has become essentially a national issue now.
I mean, 510 people over, less than 400 days.
And 6
babies
children
under the age of 5. In today's day and age, that really is quite shocking. Well, also, Diptyka, though, making the front pages here in France, we've been looking at how the people across the United States were reacting to it. It is the 50th anniversary of the death of Martin Luther King Jr.
The iconic civil rights leader was, of course, delivering that famous I Have a Dream speech when he was assassinated in Memphis 50 years ago. For the French paper L'Humanité, the world didn't just lose a man, but his dream was assassinated as well. That's what the paper says. While there's at the front page of Tageblatt, which is a Luxembourg newspaper, on their front page they say grief and hope, with a picture, of course, from his speech. They've dedicated several pages to analyzing Dr. King's legacy. Indeed, as we'll see later on in the 9 o'clock press review, there is a lot of analysis about how different U.S. politics and race relations could have been had Dr. King survived. It's, of course, a commemoration that comes at a time of high divisions, tense divisions with Donald Trump in the White House. He's the focus of this cheeky cartoon. He says, I had a dream too, a man of color in the White House. And there you see orange paint hiding behind the curtains there.
Okay. Well, meanwhile, Diptyka, I did grab quickly a headline that caught my attention. It is in the British papers, and it's about the London crime rate, which actually this quite shocked me.
Well, London is more dangerous than New York. At least that's according to the figures now, Eve. There's a lot of soul-searching in the British press about how we got here, what can be done. London overtook New York in terms of murders for the first time in modern history. In February and March, 38 people were murdered on the streets of London and 35 in New York. One U.S. super cop, Bill Bratton, who's actually credited with helping bring down crime rates in New York, has some tips for London. He says London is in vital need of medicine. He suggests that Scotland Yard actually look to a man called Sir Robert Peel. He was a man known as the father of modern British policing. According to the U.S. Super Cop, London police need to focus on prevention. That's what helped New York reduce its crime rate. They should also focus on what's called broken windows policy, tackling petty crime to ensure it doesn't escalate into more serious crime.
You see, my negative side immediately just imagine that London crime rates had jumped up, but maybe it's just a question of New York bringing them down.
It could also be a question of statistics. It is only 2 months, but it is possibly a sign of what's to come.
Finally, Diptyka, let's look here in France. Tourists love to hand their love locks to put them on Paris bridges, but good luck to finding them now. Paris officials have decided to remove a whole bunch of them from the Pont Neuf.
It's their third operation, the Love Locks Season 3, Le Parisien says. On Tuesday, Paris officials took to your love locks with bolt cutters, I'm sorry to say. As part of a security operation, Paris's old iron fences can no longer withstand all that love. It's at risk of collapsing. 40 tons of metal were removed in the past weeks. In the past, Paris officials have auctioned off these locks. Not quite sure what they're planning to do this time.
Yeah, I have to say, well, I like the idea. I'm not quite a big fan of those love locks.
They don't make the bridges look very
No,
pretty.
they look like they've been hit by sweet wrappers. Anyway, Diptyka Laurent, thanks a lot for that wrap-up of the international papers.